It was a warm, sunny Sunday afternoon of the Labor Day long weekend, 1977. My friend and coworker picked me up to go to a barbecue at a friend's house. As we were proceeding through an intersection, a sports car ran the light and slammed right into the side of us. I remember hearing a crunch of metal and a huge jolt as we skidded towards the curb. Then everything slowed down, and I remember watching the windshield shatter in slow motion. It looked like frost forming on glass. I looked out the passenger window and watched as the concrete light pole got closer and closer. I knew I wouldn't have a chance of getting out of this alive. As that thought was in my mind, everything stopped. No sound, no movement. Everything seemed suspended in midair. I felt a presence surround me. Then a swooshing sound, like helicopter blades were really close. All of a sudden, I was moving up really fast. I felt like I was being embraced very gently. Someone or something was holding me, and I knew I would be okay. The sound got louder, and we went faster. All I could see, or sense, was white light, very bright that I could look at it. No problem. I remember looking up and seeing white, then looking down and seeing the accident scene. It was surreal. I felt a huge sense of peace and calmness. I knew everything would be fine. We arrived at the foot of a very large cobblestone path. Ahead I could see a large city to the left and a beautiful field to the right. A babbling stream ran along the path. The city was constructed of luminescent glass. The buildings shimmered in radiant colors I had never seen before. I could see children, adults, cats, dogs, birds, butterflies, lots of butterflies, and every kind of animal playing and singing in the meadow. I wanted to immediately join them. It was then I could see my guide, for lack of a better word. He was very handsome and about 35 years old. He was dressed in a brown, beige robe, and I immediately knew that I knew him. He smiled and said, actually it was telepathic, "Come on, follow me." I was led to one of the buildings. As we approached, the buildings got higher and higher until they disappeared into the clouds. We entered into what looked to be a library of sorts. It had multiple levels, and it was made of marble and dark wood. All I could see were scrolls, from top to bottom. Most were rolled, some were cloth, some were raspy paper, some were flat and etched in marble. It was the most amazing thing I had ever seen. Lots of people were there, bustling around. They all looked at me and seemed very happy to see me. Some even cheered. I was then led to a room that resembled a conservatory. As soon as I was left alone, the walls came to life. 360 degrees of movies all projected at once. I watched the domino effect of what harsh and unkind words and actions would do to people, how it would start with one person and spiral down to 300 people. I felt the anger and sadness of everyone. I thought I was going to explode. I was emotionally shaken to the core. That was the only semi-negative thing that happened to me during my visit there. I was asked to return to the library as I was to start my studies, as in reading the scrolls. It was more like downloading into my consciousness. I read and studied there for 60 years. Most were people's lives from beginning to end. I was allowed to feel the emotions of most people. Some were vibrant, some were sort of boring. A lot that was downloaded was information. This will be hard to explain, but I'll do my best. We, here on Earth, have a role to play. We choose our lives even before we are born. Whether we chose a good life or a bad one, it matters not, because there is no good or bad. It's just your chosen role, and all lives lived are essential for our evolution and development. That's why we have memory. We learn and grow because we have different lifestyles, beliefs, opinions, etc. Sorry to say this, but even the most evil, death, destruction, disease is essential. Think about it. If everything was always good and going your way, if all relationships were good and everyone got what they wanted, over the years it would get pretty boring and stagnant. I know it sounds wonderful, but it wouldn't let us grow much, would it? Also, something else that might be hard to comprehend is that there is no such thing as time. Your life is happening all at once, meaning your past, present, future are all one bubble. It's our brain filter that makes this so-called time linear. I know, strange. That might raise questions of free will. Do we have it? Yes and no. Just because your life is predetermined, you don't know what the outcome will be. Things can change on a dime. Always remember that. I knew everything about the universe. Why? How? What's the point of it all? I was there for so long it was hard not to know everything. When I returned, I couldn't remember a lot of information that I had received. I assumed it was intentional. I will never forget when I was told I had to go back. I was stunned. I wanted to stay. I argued. I didn't win. I made a deal, though, that when I did return I would stay. But I guess I had said that before, apparently many times, so I had to squeeze my big expanse back into that tiny body that was, by now, halfway laying outside that wrecked car. I couldn't fit very well. It took me 6 months to get comfortable. I came to in the ambulance. The EMT was glad to see me, he said. My friend that was driving spent 3 months in hospital. Broken pelvis, arm, femur/crushed foot. I walked away without a scratch. The insurance adjuster was amazed I got out alive, let alone nothing broken. Imagine that. So now you know time is irrelevant. 60 years in heaven, 30 minutes Earth time. So that about concludes my experience. Lots of other things happened there, but this is long enough. Footnote: I decided to share this after almost 40 years because of an odd series of events that happened to me recently. The main one was I discovered who my guide was. He was with me the whole time I was there. When I retired, I returned to my small hometown and I happened to walk by a church. I looked toward it, and then it hit me like a ton of bricks. My guide was a friend and schoolmate that passed when he was 12 years old. It was him, without a doubt in my mind. I knew him.